This is meant to depict your brain. Alright? And according to various studies that have been done over decades now, indications are, and again many of you will know this, that we utilize 10% of our brain. Approximately 10%. In fact, Einstein was one of the first people to come up with the estimation. And he was derided by some of his genius friends because they said, look, you're a bright guy. But who told you what the potential of the human brain is? Nonetheless, 10% is a generally considered norm. So, that's 10%. 90% is what? That's our conscious brain. What is this? Subconscious. Thank you. So 90% of the time, you're running on automatic. Subconscious mind. Is unconscious. Well, that'll be when you have your awards a little later. It's a little different. Having said that though, it's a very good point, and I'd like to bring it up right now. This is a book called Little Voice Mastery, written by a fellow named Blair Singer. He's the co-founder of Sales Partners Worldwide, a close friend and business colleague of Robert Kiyosaki. They've been friends for 30 years on. Does anyone know of Blair? No, but many of you will know about Robert Kiyosaki, yes, from Rich Dad, Poor Dad fame. Robert's actually at the back of this book endorsing the book because Blair is one of Robert's advisors into his Rich Dad business in the line of sales and communication. And what Blair says in this book is that there are two types of people, conscious people and unconscious people. So you're quite right. And what he says is conscious people have the ability to step outside of themselves and see themselves as instruments of cause, rather than at the effect of somebody else's actions. And he says the moment you can step outside yourself and see yourself objectively, that's when little voice mastery starts. So, how many of you believe you have a little voice? Yeah? How many believe you have more than one? Okay. I'm not alone then, because I have a choir. And a lot of the time they don't sing. Okay, so little voice is simply another name for the subconscious mind. That little thing that leads us astray. It either helps us or it hinders us. But it's also there to protect us. So, in terms of the 90%, how many of you drove here today was the question. Pretty much everyone, or you traveled with someone, right? So, whilst you were driving here, were you thinking all the time about what you were doing? Not exactly. Right? Subconsciously you know how to drive. So you may have been changing the radio station, listening to a CD, talking to a colleague, puffing on a cigarette, whatever the case may be. Maybe hands-free on a cell phone, and then you arrive at your destination. So subconsciously you know how to drive, because it's been programmed, because you've learned how to do it. It becomes a learned habit. And the point is, what happens is we arrive at our destination, i.e. work, but we follow the same pattern during the day. And that pattern would be waking up in the morning, having a cup of tea or coffee, having a shower, getting the children ready for school if you have children, getting the kids to school, or children to school, I beg your pardon, and then making your way to work. But when you get to work, what happens? The cycle. You answer calls, you return calls, you check your emails, you do all those things that are required of us to do on a subconscious level because it's a pattern, it's a program, it's what's inherently inside us to get the job done in the best way we know how. And how many of us are consciously thinking how we can do things a little bit differently, and how we can impact our day, impact our relationships, impact the agreements that we have people in a different way, subtle ways, small ways that make a big difference. Which again alludes to the video clip we saw. It's the small things that count. Yes, we can have the huge big deals once off, and then we've got to plod away again, but it's the small things that count that add up to eventually the opportunity being, or the property being sold, or the agreement being signed. Any questions at this point? Okay, so here's the situation about the little voice with the subconscious mind. May I know your name? Fiona, thank you. So Fiona and I have been working together, for example, let's pretend. We've been working together for a while, maybe a year or so. And we get on like a house on fire. We really relate very well. And we've been doing some joint ventures. We've been investing some money. We've seen a pool of resource grow from another external income. And then one day something happens. I find an opportunity, and I think, whoa, here's something that can happen. This is going to be good. But I'm a little short on cash. So I come up to Fiona and I say, Fiona, I've seen this handy opportunity. Look at these figures. Isn't this incredible? You go, wow, that's amazing. What are you going to do? And I'll say, well, let's do it. But I'll tell you what, pal, I'm a bit short on money this month, you know. If you could put the 30,000 extra in, I'll give you a bigger return at the end. Suddenly, the relationship changes. Because unbeknown to me, Fiona's had a situation in the past where she lent money to someone and didn't get it back. Anyone in this room ever lent money to anyone and didn't get it back? Oh, lots of So we know all about that. So you can understand how Fiona feels where she starts now giving me the cold shoulder. Doesn't want to hang around with me anymore. Doesn't want to see me after work. Doesn't want to talk about any business because what we've got is sufficient. And she doesn't want to have to give the 30,000 rand. Immediately our relationship changes. Has it got anything to do with me? No. It's what's going on in her life. It's what's been pre-programmed in Fiona's past. It's about the hurt she's carrying of having lent money out before and being stunned. So she's not protecting herself. That's her little voice, her subconscious mind saying, oh, hang on, warning, warning, warning. Let's not go down that road. And that's what it can do, but it can also help us. Right? But we just need to be aware of the difference. Because how to win the war between your ears and have an extraordinary life contains 21 techniques of how to adjust ourselves and how to be aware of signals that are coming up in our life that are holding us back. Because often the little voice will sabotage our means of going forward. And there is a way though to ensure that we can keep going forward. I'll write it up here so there's vacancy. C-A-W. So what does that mean? Well, we've seen again now with a really pumped up American football side, but consider South Africa's three main sports, cricket, rugby and football. What happens when the South Africans get a wicket? Or Bafana Bafana score a goal? Or the Boks get a try? Hey! Whoa! Yeah! Yeah! All this dancing and carrying on goes, do you think that's the game as opposed to watching the football? The point is, people can celebrate. So I'm going to ask you right now, turn to the partner next to you and give them a high five and say, you're a champion. The point is, what happened to the energy in the room? Did it go up or down? Up, in an instant. And that's how quick it can be regarding the little voice or dealing with things that go on in our subconscious mind. So it's about anchoring. Anchoring the wins we have, anchoring the positive moments we have. And we can do that often enough, we're going to accelerate our performance. There's a book that's mentioned by Blair. He gives credence to a lot of people in this book, by the way. Many people. And one of them is Martin Seligman, who's a psychologist in the United States. He wrote a book called Learn Optimism. And he conducted an exhaustive study of people, thousands and thousands of professional salespeople, professional athletes, leaders in business, women and children, to understand what it is that makes them tick. And he found that in his studies, by celebrating wins and by keeping ourselves not necessarily pumped up, but focused on what we can do and what we have achieved, will increase performance, I don't know how he got to the figure, by 34%. By two simple techniques, handling adversity and handling success. Sounds a bit too good to be true, but that's again one of those small things, or two small things that can happen, that can increase and accelerate results. Because really, the conscious mind, if you can imagine, picture in your mind, a captain on a ship, a huge craft. And below the deck, below the captain's cabin, are all the crew who are actually operating the engine room. He's giving instruction. They're just saying, yes sir, and they're following whatever he does. And the ship is moving in the direction the captain wants it to go. It's not that simple though, because the little voice, the subconscious mind, can be quite insidious in keeping us where we are, because it seems to be the comfort zone. And I don't want to stretch or change what I'm doing right now, because I like the people who I'm with. And I'd like to ask this question. How many of you have changed the company you keep? Not including the boundaries of your family and close personal friends. But is it important to hook up with people that are taking you forward? Has anyone found that you've actually consciously done that? You've changed the company you keep, or you've joined with a mastermind group? Yes? This is baby. This is yes. Okay. Good, thank you. Martin Seligman. Seligman. Okay, good. So, what I'd like to do actually is to show some slides about what these critters might look like. What the little boy's characters might look like. It's a bit of a fantasy, but let's have a bit of fun.